So our oh crap moment, if you didn't see it, is this is the top of the stroke and our piston is sitting well below deck height right now.
Whoa. What's wrong now?
Is the piston not coming to the top?
No.
It's way below deck. It should be sitting pretty much flush, so if we continue to build the engine like this, we would have no compression on this thing. So what's wrong? Is it the rods, the pistons, or the crank? Well, I took this crank out of a different 440 that I had, and I just went and checked back on the video when I disassembled it, and you could see that piston right there is pretty much at deck height. So I know that this crank came out of a 440. It's a steel crank out of a 71-year coated 440, and there's a rod and some pistons in there. So I think it's either a missed part number in the rod or the piston, and I don't know exactly what happened, but this sucks because we blueprinted the whole engine to have the pistons and the rods all balanced in unison with each other relative to the crank. So if we have to change pistons or rods now, we have to pull everything back out and rebalance the pistons to the rods, and then the rods and pistons to the crank, and kind of go back to all the work that we did over here. And yeah, this is a bit of a hit. So we'll go cry in the corner.
Say no, and I'm gonna say yes, and everything else. But we just got to order another set of rods
That's ridiculous.
and rebalance it, and then
Do it again. Our distributor sent us the wrong rods. They sent us 383 rods, not 440 rods. What a pain in the ass.
what do you
Doesn't
know?
even work.
It's not working.
Yeah,
It's
see?
not helping us.
Somebody wore it out. Y'all are like this, keep going from bad to worse.
Yeah. I was trying to find the light in this and said to Alex, well, the 383 we originally started tearing down for her, which we can rebuild someday. We at least have a set of rods for her. Yeah, so now we'll get the new rods ordered, and we'll have to balance those. This is what happens in the custom engine building, hot rodding world. Sometimes shit happens. So yeah, we checked this part number online, and these are most definitely Big Block Mopar B, not RB. So these are for the 383. So we've got rods that we don't need. We're gonna make a whole bunch of phone calls tomorrow because now everyone is out of inventory because of manufacturing shortages from the virus and everything. So of course, when we ordered these 6 months ago, there was plenty around, but now you can maybe piece together ones and twos from Jegs or Summit, or we might try a different brand, try Mancini. So hopefully we can find some tomorrow. If not, we're being told we might have to wait until April, and it's February 1st, and we're trying to be at Matt's on March 18th. So this is going to be interesting. Stay tuned. Babe, what came today?
My new rods.
Mancini Racing hooked us up. Quick shipping and delivery on these last ones that they had. Those rods were for a 383, but these ones are the 6.760 length. The ones that we had were 6.34.
Oh, you look so cute.
Thanks, babe.
Shoes.
You look cute. Babe, show everyone your rods.
Let's take a look here.
Heck yeah. Our rods are here. About to go over to Rogers and drop them off. Sunset is beautiful right now. Okay, you guys can all relax now. The new Eagle rods are here. We've got the proper length on them. So these are the 6.70 length. And yeah, I know we screwed up. Didn't check the box when we got them. They sat in a pile over there for months, didn't think about it. Next thing you know, in the excitement of the build, we're throwing these in the engine. And to the naked eye, unless you're holding them, comparing against another rod, a 7/16 of an inch doesn't really stand out too much, and they fit on the crank and everything else just the same way. But you saw when we ran that thing up the stroke, it just didn't really match deck height, and that would have been no good. So these brand new Eagle rods are great here. Get them all weight matched to each other, and then we can match them over here on our balancing machine again and get the crankshaft, the bob weights, and do all that stuff. So not the end of the world. We'll get this one figured out. Don't you guys worry. We'll have this thing cranked up in no time. Here's the size comparison. So this is the 383 rod that we put in the engine. This is actually 6.35 inches in rod length. This is the correct 440 rod, 6.760 inches. Now, granted, when you're looking at it like this, you could definitely see where we had that bit on the top of the deck missing, but to the naked eye without something next to it, you wouldn't really notice that. And I didn't have a set of rods on hand. We got all excited on the build, put them in there, but guess what? We only got one installed. Not a big deal. Pull the crank back out. We'll get these all weight matched to each other. You can come join me if you want. Excuse me, I'm trying to take a video here. Big day today, ladies and gentlemen. As you saw, we've got the new rods already in. We've gone ahead and got these rods weight matched to the rest of the rods. So now the piston assembly is put back together. Roger was very kind while we were away, and he balanced the crank to it, so Bob Waits reproduced that whole thing that we did before. The entire rotating assembly is now in balance once again. So he's already got some of the pistons set in here. We'll get the rest installed, and what you can see in front right now is we're going to be doing what is called degreeing a cam. So that's a really cool specialized thing I've never actually done before. Always wanted to learn it, so it's just making sure that for this high performance application we're actually having the cam set in timing relative to the rest of the rotating assembly to be having combustion occurring at the moment we want it to. So there's actual timing with this mechanical sense versus you can rotate your ignition timing, but it's not going to change where your camshaft is in relation to when a piston is coming up the stroke. Once those two are set by means of where we're putting this timing chain relative to the tooth on the gear to the camshaft and the actual crankshaft, they're going to be locked in, and wherever one is turning, the other is. So that's what degreeing the cam is going to do from my basic understanding right now, and I'm sure Roger's going to throw a whole lot more knowledge your way as we continue doing this and our way too. So stay tuned. Degreeing the cam, getting the rest of the pistons in here, and before you know it, we're getting heads on this thing. This is the data Roger got with the crank and everything on the rotating assembly. So 0.65 grams on one end and 0.77 on the other is nearly perfect. Way to be, Roger. And these are all the specs on the actual build. Let's see, total.
Yeah,
rod total
on the
weight.
ones with the right parts in it.
Yeah. I attempted to explain it, but I'm sure I screwed it up, so maybe you could better explain. What I was saying was that once we set this, there's only one way that the cam is ever going to exist mechanically relative to the crank, and I'm sure there's a lot more technicality I left
Basically,
out.
what we're doing is verifying that the cam is in the position that it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Here's your cam card. Okay, there's all your specs. So the cam's ground on 110 degree lobe centers. And then we put it in at 106, which is 4 degrees advanced.
Okay.
Which is gives you gobs more bottom end, and it probably you'll lose a little bit of top end out of that, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But if you were all out race motor, this gives you the information that says that's where you were, and and you got out there and all of a sudden, well, you got plenty of bottom end, but you need some more top end. Then you pop the front of the motor off and move the cam around in order to get everything set up where it's supposed to be.
Okay. How do we...
Farther retarded the camshaft running, the more top end and mid range you got. So you advance it bottom end and mid range up to probably, 5,500 or so.
Okay.
And realistically, it shouldn't be twisted tighter than that anyway. So.
Right. How do we know where 110 is? That's what the degree wheel tells us?
That's what this is all about. Okay. And I don't know how we got so lucky, but it's right exactly where we want it to be.
Huh.
Which is line up the dots. Okay. Let's see here. This indicator's coming up, getting the piston.
Okay, so the piston's coming up the top dead center. She's at 0.
It's really nice to have this piston up here instead of
Yeah.
down like this one.
Yeah.
Like we had before.
Yeah, no more 7/16 of an inch missing.
So, okay, you're setting a 0 there.
Okay.
And you set your pointer here to 0.
Okay.
And you rotate the motor around.
Okay.
And we can tell by our timing marks that we're getting pretty close. Okay, so now we're watching this again.
Okay. All right, and these are the timing marks right there, right there. The gears.
See right there.
So now we're back to 0.
Okay, you're back to 0. You have to be careful. See, your cam gear's got the mark on it. That's pretty easy to keep track of. But if you look in here, you've got a mark at the keyway, and then you got a mark over here. And sometimes guys are not used to doing it, and they put this in there, and then they make the mistake of using this to line up with that, and it throws it all out of whack.
Okay, I see the mark on the keyway with the open
And
circle.
you see here,
Right.
this was marked A, and this was marked A.
How do you know?
So if you were going to advance the cam, you'd pull this gear off and turn it around and put that A right over
the
the gear
A for
the
advanced.
keyway. And then this A would be your new timing mark in relationship to here, and vice versa. If you're going to retard it, it's marked R over there, and you wind up backing it off the other direction.
Okay. So it's the solid filled-in dot. Is that pretty much standard for all lower cam gears?
Yeah,
to do
well,
that?
yeah, Well, of a performance nature. I mean, you know, stock setup's just a dot to dot. There you go. You get what you get, and hopefully you're happy. Okay, I'm about to show you that question you're about to ask.
All right.
The stock timing setup, you only got one keyway.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes the keyway will line up with the dot,
Okay.
but generally they don't. So in this instance, this would line up like that. That's a stock type setting, and away you go. And if it, you know,
Right.
the thing of it is, we got to check each one of these because there's too many variations that are possible.
Can you degree a cam like that with the stock setup, or do you have to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you got to have the specs on the cam, and that's pretty iffy.
Okay.
So anyhow, now that we've figured out where 0 is, we're top dead center, you start going around until you see this one moving.